Beyoncé isn't country and she should not be doing country music, says people who don't understand the history of American music or how the music industry works. Let me see if I can help. Because if you're saying this, you need help. So who am I and why should you listen to me on this? And you don't have to, you can just scroll. But the fact is, I have a bachelor's in music from Dartmouth College, and I also did a master's program at the University of Texas in ethnomusicology, where I studied specifically American music, in particular, blues, jazz, and the music of New Orleans. And so based on that background, I do just have a few points that I want to bring to these people who are mad, and some of you are really mad that this woman from Houston is wearing a cowboy hat. I don't know what the hell you're mad at, but you're mad. And so here's a few points you might want to consider. So the first thing I want to point out to these people who are upset that she is simply doing country music is that these musical genres, they aren't real. They're totally contrived. They are just marketing tools that the music industry created to segregate how music is promoted and sold. These categories were simply created so that salespeople, marketing people would know where to target their marketing efforts to sell more records and make more money. And when these categories were created by marketing people in the first part of the 20th century, they were to segregate. They were intended to put this here and that there to compartmentalize. All black music initially was put into one category. There wasn't rap and reggae and R&B and soul. There was just race records. If you were black and made records, then you were making a race record. It didn't matter what it sounded like because it was for the purpose of creating the segregation. The marketers wanted the white music to make it into the mainstream and to segregate the black music into the periphery and only to be sold in black communities, black stores, and to black people. Okay, so digest that. We're about to move on to the next point, which is this. All American music is black music, including country. There is no form of American music which has escaped the influence and the impact from African Americans. And look, to the naysayers, to the haters, I know you don't want to believe that, but do this. Pause this video and then go do this. Go to YouTube and watch a couple of videos or songs from Leadbelly, who's a blues singer from the 30s. Huddy Ledbetter is his real name, known as Leadbelly. He put out songs which are in the American catalog. Goodnight Irene, Where Did You Sleep Last Night? His songs, listen to those, and then compare those to what Hank Williams Sr. sounded like in the early 50s. You will find that sonically, the way the music comes across is very similar. The connection is undeniable. And to that point, I think we can all agree that Hank Williams Sr. is one of the cornerstones of country music. You know, as it came up through the 50s and 60s and beyond, his sound is what drove a lot of it, but you need to know this, and some of you do know it. Hank Williams Sr., his teacher, his guitar teacher was Rufus T. Tot Payne, a black man. He was born in Mississippi in the 1880s. He was actually born on the same plantation where his family had been enslaved. That was his guitar teacher. That is where Hank got a lot of his musical sensibilities. And it was from these musicians like T. Tot and other black musicians in the first part of the 20th century that set the foundation for every derivative that came thereafter. And that's gospel, blues, jazz, rock, country, all of it came from that inspiration. And then the different forms, the way it came out, why does country sound different from rock or whatever? That's because of the prism through these other musicians. They took those founding pieces and through their own experience and their own expression, they created things that sounded a little different, but it has that same base. And to be clear, this is not my opinion. This is undeniable. If you've actually studied the music and the components of the music, this is just factual. So I'm not entertaining debate on that. And as this evolution was occurring in the first part of the 20th century, we also had the advent of commercially recorded music. And there's one thing that has been consistent literally since day one of commercially recorded music in the United States, and that's this. White people are going to take black music and then record their own version of it and pawn it off as if they created it. That's happened literally since day one. Let me explain. The first commercially available recording that was put out for consumption and purchase was in 1917. There's a band called the Original Dixieland Jazz Band. They went into the studio and recorded a song called The Livery Stable Blues. And it was a complete ripoff of the black music that was going on at the time. It was not a good song or good recording, but it was definitely a ripoff of what black artists were doing. And this white band recorded it, put it out as their own, and that, The Livery Stable Blues, is the first recording that was actually commercially available, and it's completely a ripoff of black music. So literally on day one, white artists started doing that. We talk a lot today about Elvis or whatever. Original Dixieland Jazz Band started it. And it literally started with the first recording. And then as recordings started to happen more frequently, the first star of recorded music was a man called Paul Whiteman. Actually, his name is actually White Man. He was a white man who also proclaimed to be the inventor of jazz. Spoiler, that wasn't true, but he was super famous, super popular, and had a great career doing music as if it was his own that really wasn't. So next point, and back to these people who are just angry that Beyoncé is doing country. It's just a marketing category. It doesn't really exist. There is no real definition for what country music is, but if you're gonna get mad at a marketing category, why stop at Beyoncé doing country? Why not also get indignant because they sell granola in the cereal aisle, and damn it, granola is not cereal. That's what you sound like when you're like, she's doing country, she should be doing country. It's just marketing. It is just a box to put something in to tell these people where and how to sell it. That's all it is. These genres are just contrived marketing tools because the music existed before the categories existed. So what happened was the music came in and these ad men, these marketing guys were like, hey, we got to figure out how to sell this stuff. So they came up with probably 5 to 8 categories initially, one of them being race records. But imagine taking all of the music that you hear around you and you're like, you know what? I'm going to define all of this music by putting it into 10 neatly organized categories. And I'm just going to name it. And everything has to fall into one of these 10 categories. I think you can all understand why it's impossible to adequately and accurately put all music into 10 different boxes because there's way too much overlap. And of course, most of the best music doesn't fit neatly into one little category. And of course, any artist who's actually an artist, they're not trying to create a country album or a hip hop album. They're trying to take their art and express it the way it comes out. And then other people can categorize it, can put it wherever they want to put it. Artists don't try to fit neatly into any preconceived genre. I mean, to me, there's really just 2 categories of music, and it's good music and bad music. And you and I don't have to agree what goes in each category, but those are the only categories I'm concerned with. So now that we understand the evolution of these categories, we can understand this. When people say Beyoncé isn't country, or she shouldn't be doing country, or she shouldn't be categorized as country, what they're really saying is this black woman should not be defined by a genre that was originally used to market the music of white people. And that's just a weird thing to get upset about, especially when you consider that sonically, what you hear on the Cowboy Carter album is much more traditionally country, if we want to use those categories. It's much more traditional than a lot of these songs that have gotten a lot of play in the country music world in recent years. I mean, Florida Georgia Line, Kid Rock, Jason Aldean. Cowboy Carter, musically, is much more traditional than most of the crap put out by those guys. So to say that it's not country because X, Y, or Z, bullshit. You're saying it's not country because of the package it came in. So my last point is this. Look, gatekeeping any musical genre, saying somebody shouldn't be allowed to be in this little club is asinine. It's stupid. But we know that we should never underestimate the willingness of some Americans to put their racism on display to make a point when really they could just shut up and move on. Thanks for watching.